Hello and welcome. You're watching News Connect, a show where we bring you all the stories internationally as well as some major national stories as well. Let's get started with the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly later today. This is PM Modi's second visit to the UNGA in about 2 years. PM accorded a grand welcome on his arrival in New York. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to deliver a video address at Global Citizen Live today. The 24-hour event with the aim to end poverty will involve live events in major cities including Mumbai, New York, Paris and other major cities. Union Home and Cooperation Minister Amit Shah addresses the country's first National Cooperative Conference. Says the Modi government created a separate Ministry of Cooperation to strengthen the cooperatives in the country. The nation is celebrating the 105th birth anniversary of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi pays tribute, says his thoughts will always inspire the countrymen. BJP President JP Nadda also pays tribute to the leader of integral humanism and Antyodaya. Four years of PM Saubhagya Yojana completed. Saubhagya scheme was launched on 25th September 2017 on the birth anniversary of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay to illuminate all the houses of the country with electricity. Under this scheme, free electricity connections were made available to poor families. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur inaugurates FM radio station and Doordarshan's high-power transmitter at Himbo Tingla in Kargil. This centre is located at the highest altitude in India. Let's begin with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's US visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in New York, where he is scheduled to address the 76th session of the UNGA later today. This is Prime Minister Modi's second visit to the UNGA in about 2 years. PM Modi is expected to raise issues including the COVID-19 pandemic and vaccine resilience. PM Modi is also expected to speak on global recovery, reboot of global economy post-pandemic. PM Modi is also expected to make a push for reformed multilateralism. Earlier today, Prime Minister Modi reached Lotte, New York Palace, where he was given a grand welcome on arrival. PM met people as they cheered for him and chanted Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai outside the hotel in New York. The Indian diaspora welcomed the Prime Minister outside the hotel. They expressed happiness and were delighted to meet him. They also said that the Prime Minister is their idol and they are fortunate to greet him.
बहुत खुश है क्योंकि हीरो हैं वो हमारे, कहां से कहां देश को लेके गए। वेरी प्राउड कि हम उनसे आज मिल पाए हैं। ये हमारा सौभाग्य है कि हमें उनके दर्शन हुए हैं। आदर्श है हमारे, जैसे इन्होंने अभी कहा हीरो हैं, सो बेसब्री से कब से इंतजार कर रहे थे उनका। बहुत अच्छा लगा, इतने पास से देखने को मिला, सो बहुत ज्यादा प्रसन्नता हुई।
बहुत सफल हुआ है आज क्वाड का जो भी मीटिंग्स है और या सीईओज के साथ, बिजनेस सीईओज के साथ जो भी हुआ है, and I am thinking it will be a very successful and fruitful visit here.
And it's very fortunate to see all this happening and India being we are all very proud of him.
जो participation Quad Summit के अलावा Quad Summit में one of the main things they stressed upon is healthcare. Healthcare के जो covaxin और all those made in India का जो भी मामला है, plus export करने का, plus also taking care of the healthcare, holistic health, मोदी जी ने बहुत ज़्यादा they put a whole big formula for taking care of health to the last mile.
अब हम आज मोदी से मिले तो मोदी जी इतना बड़ा महान देश का नेता है और इधर अमेरिका में आके इतना इतना गौरव हम लेते हैं कि अपने प्रधानमंत्री जो इधर आते हैं और हमसे मिलते हैं और हाथ मिलाते हैं और ऐसे कैसे हो ऐसा पूछते हैं, तो हमें लिए तो उसको क्या बोलते हैं, धन्यवाद करने का कोई शब्द ही नहीं है। इतना मोदी जी को हम मानते हैं और देश की शान है।
Our correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran gives us an insight now on the PM's forthcoming address to UNGA.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is among the 100-odd world leaders who will address the United Nations General Assembly's 76th session here at the UN building right behind me in New York. Now, this would be his second visit to the UNGA in about 2 years. The last time he spoke at the UNGA was in 2019, the year he was re-elected for a second term in office. Now, among the issues the PM can be expected to raise in his address here at the UNGA include COVID-19 pandemic, vaccines. Remember, India decided to resume supply of vaccines to countries, to the needy countries in the region and beyond.
There's no doubt that combating COVID-19 is right on top of the agenda of the UN General Assembly. And this is particularly so because many of the developing countries have not had any equitable access to vaccine. On the question of combating climate change, once again, India has been at the forefront of climate action. And as you know, we are the only country in the G20 which has got a credible pathway to achieve the Paris targets. And I think this is once again widely recognized. And we will therefore be pushing for climate action.
The issue of global recovery, economic recovery or reboot of the global economy from the pandemic, and also supply chain resilience. Now, this is an issue of immense importance to India because many countries around the world have had an over-dependence on China during the pandemic, and that's had a devastating impact on many economies around the world. Also, multilateral reforms of the UN in particular and the UN Security Council as well. Remember, India is among the handful of countries, including Germany, Japan and Brazil, who are actually pushing for UNSC reform as quickly as possible.
On the question of combating terrorism, I mean, you know very well, we have been probably one of the strongest proponents of combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. And when the discussion on the global counter-terror strategy took place a couple of months ago, once again, India's contribution was extremely important in shaping the contours of counter-terrorist strategy. And we took a very active part. And also in the Security Council, we are members of the Security Council.
Right.
And we have taken a lead in this particular direction. And therefore, I think this once again will be right at the top of our agenda.
So these are some of the issues that the PM can be expected to raise in his address here at the UNGA come Saturday, 25th September. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran with my camera person Saurabh Shukla in New York for DD India.
Well, the year 2021 marks 2 decades of the heinous terror attack at World Trade Center Twin Towers in New York, USA on the 9th of September 2001. A number of world leaders have been visiting the 9/11 memorial to pay homage. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in New York, where he will be addressing the 76th United Nations General Assembly session. With India and many other countries facing the wrath of terror activities, PM Modi is expected to again talk about the adoption of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism in his UNGA address. Notably, in 2014, when Modi addressed the UNGA after taking over as the Prime Minister, he urged all the countries to adopt the CCIT.
I'm coming to you from the 9/11 memorial right behind me here in the heart of New York City. Now, this is the place where the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center used to stand. Those Twin Towers were brought down on 11 September 2001 in a terror attack which claimed thousands of lives, and their names are inscribed on these plaques right behind me. The names of every one of those people who was killed in those terror attacks that took place here in New York City on the 11th of September 2001. And those people also included many Indians, by the way. Now, 2021 marks the 20th anniversary of those terror attacks. And in the last several weeks, we have seen many a world leader coming here to pay homage to those killed in those terror attacks. Now, when we talk about terrorism, India is itself been a victim of terrorism for many, many decades now. In fact, in 1996, a full 5 years before these terror attacks in New York City, India moved what is known as the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, also known by its acronym CCIT. But that document has remained a draft 25 years and counting. There's been absolutely no consensus on the adoption of this document. Why? Because there's no consensus on the definition of terrorism, what constitutes terrorism, and India has been raising this issue of terrorism, extremism and radicalization at every world fora, including United Nations General Assembly. Now, Prime Minister Modi himself has raised this issue a number of times in his interventions here at the UNGA in New York City since he first came to power in 2014. And one can expect Prime Minister Modi to again talk about this crucial issue in his address to the UNGA this week here in New York City. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran with camera person Saurabh Shukla in New York City for DD India.
And earlier, when he was in Washington, D.C., Prime Minister Narendra Modi had participated in the first in-person Quad summit, where he said that the Quad will work as a force for global good and asserted that the cooperation among 4 countries, including India, United States, Australia and Japan, in the group will ensure peace and prosperity in Indo-Pacific. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his opening remarks at the Quad leaders meeting, said that he expresses his gratitude to President Joe Biden for the first in-person Quad meeting. Here's a glimpse of what the 4 leaders said at the summit.
हमारा क्वाड एक तरह से फोर्स फॉर ग्लोबल गुड की भूमिका में काम करेगा। मुझे विश्वास है क्वाड में हमारा सहयोग इंडो पैसिफिक में और विश्व में शांति और समृद्धि सुनिश्चित करेगा।
First ever in-person Quad Summit, a new chapter of global welfare. Taking forward India's ancient philosophy of good for all, Prime Minister Modi said that he firmly believed that the grouping of 4 democracies would act as a force for global good and ensure peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific as well as the entire world. At the invitation of President Joe Biden, Prime Minister Modi and his counterparts Scott Morrison from Australia and Yoshida Suga from Japan met at the White House. Prime Minister Modi thanked US President Biden for calling the meeting. He said that the Quad vaccine initiative will greatly help the Indo-Pacific countries. Referring to shared democratic values, Prime Minister Modi said that the Quad group has decided to move forward with a positive thinking and positive approach.
अपनी साझा डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज के आधार पर क्वाड ने पॉजिटिव सोच, पॉजिटिव अप्रोच के साथ आगे बढ़ने का निर्णय लिया है। सप्लाई चेन हो या वैश्विक सुरक्षा हो, क्लाइमेट एक्शन हो या कोविड रिस्पांस या फिर टेक्नोलॉजी में सहयोग, इन सभी विषयों पर मुझे अपने साथियों से चर्चा करते बहुत खुशी होगी।
US President Joe Biden expressed confidence in a free and open Indo-Pacific region. He also said that the plan for global vaccination against COVID-19 is on track.
Our vaccine initiative is on track to produce an additional 1 billion doses of vaccine in India to boost global supply. And today, we're also launching a new Quad fellowship for students from each of our Quad countries to pursue advanced degrees in leading STEM programs here in the United States. It represents an investment in the leaders, innovators, and pioneers of tomorrow.
Prime Ministers of Australia and Japan also expressed their commitment to shared ties and a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
We believe in a free and open Indo-Pacific because we know that's what delivers a strong, stable and prosperous region, so our citizens, our peoples, can realise their hopes and dreams for their futures in a liberal and free society. The Quad is about demonstrating how democracies such as ours, as you said, Mr. President, can get things done.
This event demonstrates the strong solidarity between our four nations and our unwavering commitment to the common vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The Quad is an extremely significant initiative by four countries who share fundamental values, cooperating for the cause of realizing a free and open international order based on the rule of law in the Indo-Pacific.
The first in-person summit-level Quad meeting marks a coming of age for the informal grouping. Frequent and regular high-level engagements will most likely be seen, and outcomes in areas like deeper cooperation on fighting climate change, cybersecurity, infrastructure development, and sharing of emerging technologies like 5G infrastructure will also materialize soon. Sudhakar Das in Washington, D.C. for DD India.
Before the Quad Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Joe Biden held their first ever in-person bilateral meeting. Delegation-level talks were also held. At the meetings, PM Modi stressed on the importance of the third decade of the 21st century as a transformative period in the bilateral relationship, saying the US leadership will certainly play an important role in how this decade is shaped, and adding that seeds have been sown for an even stronger friendship between India and the USA.
The first ever in-person meeting between Prime Minister and President of two of the world's oldest and largest democracies. The venue, White House. The host, President Joe Biden. Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a warm welcome from President Joe Biden at the Oval Office. Both leaders hailed India-US ties and said they looked forward to beginning of a new chapter. Prime Minister Modi lauded President Biden's leadership, saying it will play a key role in shaping this decade. PM mentioned 4 T's: talent, technology, trade and trusteeship, and said both countries have the talent to leverage technology for greater global good.
दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा ड्राइविंग फोर्स बन रही है टेक्नोलॉजी। इस दशक में भारत और अमेरिका के रिश्तों में टेक्नोलॉजी, और वो भी पूरी मानवता के लिए उपयोगी हो, उस दिशा में हमारी टैलेंट टेक्नोलॉजी को माध्यम से बहुत बड़ी सेवा कर सकती है और एक बड़ा अवसर हमें उपलब्ध होगा।
Prime Minister described President Biden's efforts on COVID-19, mitigating climate change and the Quad as noteworthy. US President Joe Biden remembered Mahatma Gandhi a week ahead of his birth anniversary on October 2nd, recalling the values advocated by the Apostle of Peace and non-violence, tolerance, respect and human trusteeship.
भारत और अमेरिका के बीच ट्रेड का अपना महत्व है और इस दशक में ट्रेड के क्षेत्र में भी हम एक दूसरे को काफी पूरक हो सकते हैं। बहुत सी चीजें हैं जो अमेरिका के पास है, जो भारत को जरूरत है, बहुत सी चीजें भारत के पास है जो अमेरिका के काम आ सकती हैं। तो ट्रेड भी इस दशक का एक बहुत बड़ा क्षेत्र रहेगा।
The two leaders also held delegation-level talks. PM said both countries were committed to democratic values and traditions.
21वीं शताब्दी के तीसरे दशक का ये पहला वर्ष, मैं पूरे दशक की तरफ देख रहा हूं कि आपके नेतृत्व में जो बीज हम बोएंगे, इस पूरा दशक हमारी दृष्टि से बहुत ही भारत और अमेरिका के संबंध में, विश्व के लोकतांत्रिक देशों के लिए एक बहुत ही ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव ये कालखंड रहेगा, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है।
US President Joe Biden recalled his long association with PM Modi, adding that India and the US are set to begin a new chapter in the history of bilateral ties, taking on some of the toughest challenges together.
And I think that's begun to come to pass, and today we're launching a new chapter in the history of US-Indian ties. and taking on some of the toughest challenges we faced together, starting with a shared commitment to ending the COVID pandemic.
The meeting between the two leaders lasted for about an hour.
The partnership between India and the US is an enduring one, and it has a lot of room to grow as long as talent, trade, technology and trusteeship come together. And that is what was witnessed in the bilateral meeting, the first one between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Joe Biden today at the White House. They talked about taking on challenges like COVID-19 and climate change and growing their relationship further into the future. With Cabinet Person Vinay Tiwari, this is Gautam Roy in Washington DC for DD India.
Meanwhile, India in its right of reply at the UNGA slammed Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan for a speech at the UNGA. India slammed Pakistan PM Imran Khan's references to Kashmir in his United Nations General Assembly virtual speech. First Secretary to the UN, Sneha Dubey, said regrettably, this is not the first time the leader of Pakistan has misused platforms provided by the UN to propagate false and malicious propaganda against India and seeking in vain to divert the world's attention from the sad state of his country. She added that his country has been globally recognized as openly supporting, training, financing and arming terrorists as a matter of state policy.
We keep hearing that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. This is the country which is an arsonist disguising itself as a firefighter. Pakistan nurtures terrorists in their backyard in the hope that they will only harm their neighbors. Our region, in fact, the entire world, has suffered because of their policies. On the other hand, they are trying to cover up sectarian violence in their country as acts of terror.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver a video address at the event Global Citizen Live this evening. Global Citizen is a global advocacy organization that is working to end extreme poverty. Global Citizen Live is a 24-hour event which will be held today and tomorrow. The live events in major cities including Mumbai, New York, Paris, Rio de Janeiro, Sydney, Los Angeles, Lagos and Seoul will be broadcast in 120 countries and over multiple social media channels. Cooperation Minister Amit Shah today addressed the first mega conference of cooperatives in New Delhi. Minister of State for Cooperation B.L. Verma and International Cooperatives Alliance President Ariel Guarco were also present at the event. Crores of people linked to cooperative bodies across the world joined the program virtually. Over 2,000 people associated with cooperatives were present at the venue of the program in New Delhi. During the event, Shah outlined the government's vision and roadmap for the development of the cooperative sector. Union Cooperation Minister Amit Shah began his address at the event by honouring the ideals laid out by late Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay and said that he is an inspiration for many cooperative workers.
मेरे जैसे कई कार्यकर्ताओं का सहकार में आने की प्रेरणा का मूल स्थान दीनदयाल जी की अंत्योदय की नीति है। गरीब कल्याण और अंत्योदय उसकी कल्पना सहकारिता के अलावे हो ही नहीं सकती और देश में सबसे पहले विकास की जब बात होती थी तब सबसे पहले अंत्योदय की बात जिन्होंने की वो पंडित दीनदयाल जी थे। आज उनका जन्मदिन है। हम मेरे जैसे लाखों करोड़ों कार्यकर्ताओं के लिए ये प्रेरणा प्राप्त करने का दिन है।
Further, he said that after 75 years of independence, when cooperation was extremely essential, Prime Minister Narendra Modi set up an independent cooperation ministry.
आजादी के 75 साल के बाद और ऐसे समय पर जब सहकारिता आंदोलन को सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत थी, तब देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वतंत्र सहकारिता मंत्रालय बनाया। इसलिए एज एक सहकारी कार्यकर्ता भी और आप सबकी ओर से मैं उनको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और साधुवाद देना चाहता हूं। मेरा आप सभी से अनुरोध है कि अपने अपने स्थान पर खड़े होकर सहकारिता आंदोलन का अनुमोदन जो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने किया है, हम सब इसकी ताली बजाकर स्वागत करें और उनके प्रति धन्यवाद ज्ञापन करें।
Amit Shah also said that now is the time to take a pledge to move forward from negligence to giving priority to important issues.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने इस मंत्रालय का स्थापना किया है, तब मैं सहकारिता मंत्री के नाते देश भर के सहकारिता के नेताओं को, कार्यकर्ताओं को कहना चाहता हूं कि निग्लेक्शन का टाइम समाप्त हुआ है, प्रायोरिटी का टाइम शुरू हुआ है। आइए सब साथ में रहकर सहकारिता को आगे बढ़ाएं। देश के विकास के अंदर सहकारिता बहुत महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दे सकती है। हमने इसको नए सिरे से सोचना पड़ेगा, नए सिरे से रेखांकित करना पड़ेगा, हमारे काम का दायरा बढ़ाने पड़ेगा, काम के अंदर शिस्त लानी पड़ेगी, काम के अंदर पारदर्शिता भी लानी पड़ेगी और काम के अंदर सहकारिता की भावना को स्वभाव की तरह, संस्कार की तरह घुल मिलकर सहकारिता के आंदोलन को आगे बढ़ाएं।
The Minister further said that the concept of cooperation is India's own and that it resides in the country's cultural roots.
कई देशों के अंदर सहकारिता कानून से अस्तित्व में आती है, कई देशों के अंदर सहकारिता छोटी छोटी पैक्स और बाकी सहकारी समितियों के संविधान से अस्तित्व में आती है। भारत में ये व्यवस्था के लिए जरूरी है। भारत की जनता के स्वभाव में सहकारिता घुल मिल गई है, इसके संस्कार के अंदर सहकारिता है। ये कोई उधार लिया हुआ कंसेप्ट नहीं है, हमारे स्वतः काम से प्रकट हुआ ये सहकारिता कंसेप्ट है। इसलिए भारत में कभी सहकारिता आंदोलन कभी भी इरिलेवेंट नहीं हो सकता।
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended the National Defence College convocation ceremony. Addressing the event, he said that knowledge allows to understand the historical and geopolitical realities of a country and a region, and added that this knowledge will help in understanding the recent developments in Afghanistan.
When these events are viewed, it is tempting to believe that terrorism, fear, medieval thoughts and actions, discriminations drawn on the basis of gender, practices that are steeped in inequality and dogmatic thought can sweep aside the wishes of the people, plural ideas and inclusive structures.
Defence Minister also said that there is a growing realization of what India has been voicing for long with regard to the active support of Pakistan to violent, radical and terror groups.
There is a growing realization of what India has been voicing for long with regard to the active support of Pakistan to violent, radical and terror groups. Today the world is witness to the destabilizing effect of terror and the especially dangerous precedents of violent radical forces attempting to gain legitimacy by creating new normals. The turmoil caused in the region has been brought about by aggressive designs and the active support to non-state players by irresponsible states.
He also added that India's actions in Balakot and Galwan are clear signals to all aggressors that any attempts to threaten our sovereignty will be given a swift and befitting response.
In the last decade, India has grown stronger in every way and has assumed a greater global role and responsibility. While it is totally committed to peace and goodwill amongst all nations, it has shown its steely resolve that threats to its internal and external security will no longer be tolerated. Our actions in Balakot and Galwan are clear signals to the aggressors that by attempt to threaten our sovereignty will be given a swift and befitting response.
Minister of Information and Broadcasting Anurag Singh Thakur dedicated to the nation high-power transmitters of Doordarshan and All India Radio at Hamboting La near Kargil in Ladakh today. The 10 kilowatt transmitters are the highest altitude TV and radio transmitters in the country, located at the height of 4,054 meters, that is 13,300 feet above the mean sea level. The transmitters at Leh are at the altitude of 3,501 meters, which is about 11,450 feet. Speaking on the occasion, the minister noted that Hamboting La site is one of the most difficult locations considering the hostile weather conditions and geographical terrain. Anurag Thakur complimented the team of engineers and workers for completing the project in such hostile weather conditions. The range of the transmitters is over 50 kilometers radius. Observing that transmitter would cover a population of about 45,000 in the remote and difficult border area of Kargil, Anurag Thakur said that the number may look small compared to other parts of the country, but it demonstrates the commitment of the Government of India to reach each and every citizen in the border areas.
आर्टिकल 370-35A को हटाने के बाद, आपको यूटी का दर्जा देने के बाद लगातार विकास के प्रोजेक्ट यहां पर तेजी के साथ चल रहे हैं और उन विकासात्मक कार्यों को भी और सरकारी योजनाओं को भी, प्रोग्राम्स को, पॉलिसीज को भी जन जन तक पहुंचाने के लिए ऑल इंडिया रेडियो ने बहुत सालों तक और दूरदर्शन ने काम जो किया है, अब उसको और ताकत देने का समय आया है। और ये उसमें एक पहल है, क्योंकि मोदी जी का सपना था कि बॉर्डर के इलाके के सभी जो घर रहते हैं जिनके पास फ्री डिश नहीं है, उनको भी फ्री डिश दी जाए। 30,000 हमने पहले दे दी थी, अब जो घर रह गए हैं उनको भी फ्री डिश देने का काम इस साल कर दिया जाएगा।
The minister said border coverage by strong signals of radio and television is an important aspect of broadcasting policies of the government, and that it is not only required for providing correct information to the people in the sensitive border areas of J&K and Ladakh, but also to counter the propaganda from the hostile neighbors. The strengthening of terrestrial coverage in border areas also allows the viewers and listeners to be adequately informed about the country's policies, news and current affairs, and simultaneously be entertained by a variety of programs. Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur also flagged off the second edition of Ultimate Ladakh Cycling Challenge 2021 in Leh. Amidst cheers, the Union Minister also took part in the event. The aim is to make people across the country aware of fitness and health. It was another step towards making a fit India. Sports Minister said that on the occasion of Amrit Mahotsav, the cycle challenge will motivate people to indulge in more physical activities.
मोदी जी के मन में यही था कि भारत के युवाओं को और भारत की जनता में फिटनेस को लेकर जागरूकता लेकर आए। और मुझे खुशी इस बात की है कि 11,000 से ज्यादा फीट 11,000 फीट से ज्यादा ऊंचाई पर भी लेह लद्दाख के हमारे युवा सुबह के 7 बजे से अपनी अपनी साइकिल्स लेकर खड़े हैं साइकिलिंग करने के लिए। ये अमृत महोत्सव के अवसर पर आजादी के 75 वर्ष मनाते हुए एक और देश में फिट इंडिया फ्रीडम रन चल रहा है, तो आप लोगों ने फिट इंडिया में साइकिलिंग चैलेंज को भी आगे बढ़ाने का काम किया है। उसके लिए भी मैं लद्दाख पुलिस को और आप सबको बहुत बहुत बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूं।
Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, Piyush Goyal, who was on a 3-day visit to Himachal Pradesh, presided over the state-level function of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana held in Shimla today. On the occasion, the Union Minister also interacted with beneficiaries of the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. The Minister also distributed free ration bags at the occasion at Hotel Peterhof in Shimla. With the aim of achieving 100% village electrification of all households in the country, Prime Minister launched the Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana Saubhagya scheme on 25th September 2017. The scheme completes 4 years with focus to create basic electricity infrastructure in villages. More in this report.
मंत्री सहज बिजली हर घर योजना यानी कि सौभाग्य योजना के तहत सरकार देश के हर ऐसे घर, चाहे वो गांव में हो या शहर में हो या झुग्गी झोपड़ी में हो, दूर दराज वाले इलाके में हो, उस घर को बिजली कनेक्शन से जोड़ने का आज हम संकल्प करके आगे बढ़ते हैं।
The centre's flagship scheme Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana Saubhagya was launched on the occasion of birth centenary celebration of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay on 25th September of 2017, with the aim to provide energy access to all by last mile connectivity and electricity connections to all remaining unelectrified households. Scheme works to ease lives of unprivileged section. The government pledged to provide uninterrupted power supply to over 18,000 villages where there was no direct connection. After providing electricity to every village, the Modi government took the initiative to illuminate every house through the Saubhagya scheme. The total outlay of the project is rupees 16,320 crores to fulfill the ambitious target of providing electricity to every household. A remarkable progress was made in a record 18 months. On March 31, 2019, states informed that except 18,734 houses in Naxal-affected areas, the country achieved electrification of 262.84 lakh households. Additional 19.09 lakh households were electrified which were unwilling earlier to get electrified. So far, the scheme has benefited more than 2 crore 81 lakh houses. Free connections were provided to poor families.
2 साल पहले मेरी घर में बिजली नहीं था, तब बहुत परेशान में रहता हूँ, लेकिन 2 साल बाद जब बिजली आया तब बहुत फायदा हुआ।
जब से गवर्नमेंट ने ये स्कीम लॉन्च की सौभाग्य वाली, तब से हमारे घरों में रोशनी आई है। इससे पहले हमें मोमबत्तियां जलानी पड़ती थी और कोई बच्चे वगैरह सब उनको परेशानी होती थी लिखने पढ़ने में, या कोई काम करता था शालाबाशी का काम या और कोई काम, उनको भी दिक्कत होती थी।
Along with power connections, the scheme will provide subsidy on equipments such as transformers, wires and meters. Access to electricity will have a positive impact on quality of life of people in all aspects of daily household chores and human development. With inputs from Shailendra Mishra, Bureau Report, DD India.
Antyodaya Divas is observed every year on 25th September. This day has been given national importance in honor of late Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay to mark his birth anniversary. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tribute to Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. He tweeted, and I quote, "Tribute to Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay ji, the pioneer of integral human philosophy. On his birth anniversary, he dedicated his life to nation building. His thoughts will always inspire the countrymen." BJP President JP Nadda along with other party leaders paid a floral tribute to Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay on his 105th birth anniversary at the party office in Delhi. BJP President said that Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay was a learned man and dedicated his life to society.
पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय जी की 105वीं जन्म जयंती मना रहे हैं। हम सब जानते हैं कि भारतीय जनसंघ की स्थापना और भारतीय जनसंघ के विचारधारा को प्रतिपादित करते हुए एक राष्ट्रीय राजनीतिक दल के रूप में स्थापित करने में और आज जो दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी राजनीतिक दल के रूप में उभर करके भारतीय जनता पार्टी आई है, उसके नींव को रखने वाले हमारे पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय जी थे।
BJP President JP Nadda said that BJP is celebrating the 105th birth anniversary of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay by organizing programs at the booth level. He said that the BJP is doing this program on about 1.5 lakh booths. He added that BJP is taking Upadhyay's ideology forward by working on the motto of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas.
आज हम लोग सभी बूथों पर उनका कार्यक्रम कर रहे हैं और इन बूथों के माध्यम से जिनकी संख्या है 10,40,000 बूथों पर यह कार्यक्रम हो रहा है और उनको हम याद करके उनके कार्यक्रम करके एक वैचारिक दृष्टि से हमको ताकत मिले, हमारे कार्यकर्ताओं को ताकत मिले और उस स्पष्टता के साथ हम समाज की सेवा में प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में आगे बढ़ें और देश को एक सबल राष्ट्र के रूप में हम आगे बढ़ाने में अपना योगदान करें। इस
Marking the birth anniversary of late Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay, Anurag Thakur further in fact said that Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay gave the slogan of Antyodaya and said that it has spread further with the help of modern communication mediums.
पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय जी को भी हम याद करते हैं क्योंकि अंत्योदय की बात किसी ने की कि पंक्ति में अंत में खड़े के लिए भी व्यक्ति के लिए काम करना है। तो इससे बड़ा काम क्या हो सकता है कि पंक्ति के अंत में तो नहीं, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ ऐसे पहाड़ी दुर्गम क्षेत्र में भी जहां एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाने के लिए भी बहुत समय लगता है, कठिनाइयां होती हैं, हमने वहां तक पहुंचने के लिए भी ऑल इंडिया रेडियो और दूरदर्शन ने जो काम किया है वो काबिले तारीफ है।
And let's now take a look at COVID-19 situation from across the country. COVID-19 vaccination coverage crossed the landmark mark of 84.89 crores so far. In a tweet, Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Mansukh Mandaviya, said that world's largest vaccination drive is creating new benchmarks. In a magnificent feat, India has administered 85 crore COVID-19 vaccines. Further, the recovery of 28,046 patients in the last 24 hours has increased the cumulative tally of recovered patients to 3,28,76,319. Consequently, India's recovery rate stands at 97.78%. Recovery rate is currently at its highest peak since March 2020. 29,616 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours. The active caseload is presently at 3,01,442. Active cases account for less than 1% of total cases. The testing capacity across the country continues to be expanded. The last 24 hours saw a total of 15,92,421 tests being conducted. India has so far conducted over 56.16 crore cumulative tests. While testing capacity has been enhanced across the country, weekly positivity rate is at 1.99% and it remains less than 3% for the last 92 days now. The daily positivity rate reported is 1.86%. The daily positivity rate has remained below 3% for the last 26 days now. Following a downward trend in the coronavirus case tally, National Capital Delhi recorded 24 cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours with no deaths reported. Meanwhile, in Tamil Nadu, a total of 1,733 persons tested positive for COVID-19 on Friday. As per the official bulletin, Coimbatore topped the tally with 210 cases, followed by Chennai with 205 and Chengalpattu with 122. The total number of cases in Tamil Nadu as of 24th September stands at 26,53,848.27. In fact, 27 deaths were reported, taking the state's total tally to 35,454. 1,631 patients were discharged today, taking the total number of recoveries in the state to 26,01,198. Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Mansukh Mandavia, took part in the 66th AIIMS Foundation Day. During this event, the Union Minister of State for Health, Bharti Praveen Pawar, and AIIMS Director, Dr. Randeep Guleria, were also present. Health Minister inaugurated the exhibition on digital health and medical education. The Health Minister said that Prime Minister linked health with overall development and thanked the entire staff of AIIMS for their continuous service to the nation and congratulated them on the Foundation Day.
परफॉर्मेंस और आउटपुट को देखते हुए मोदी जी ने डिसीजन लिया कि बेस्ट देश के नागरिकों को बेस्ट ट्रीटमेंट के लिए केवल दिल्ली में ही एम्स हो, ये नहीं चलेगा। एम्स सभी स्टेट में हो, ये दिशा में आगे बढ़े और आज 22 एम्स का निर्माण कार्य चल रहा है। देश में हेल्थ सेक्टर का बजट बढ़ा के 2.40 लाख करोड़ रुपीस किया गया और छोटी बात नहीं है।
He added that AIIMS acts as a modern lighthouse which helps people to get health services at ease.
ना से आज तक वो कैसे आगे बढ़ी और वर्तमान समय में मेडिकल रिसर्च और एजुकेशन कहां तक पहुंचा है। मेडिकल एजुकेशन, मेडिकल सेक्टर दुनिया के साथ इंडिया में भी मैं समझता हूं कि बराबरी का ग्रोथ अचीव किया है। हमारे लिए खुशी की बात है। ये एम्स इंस्टीट्यूट है, एम्स हेल्थ सेक्टर में एक लाइट हाउस बन के उभरी है।
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu attended the convocation of the University College of Medical Sciences at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi today. Vice President released a souvenir at the convocation ceremony on the occasion of completion of its 50 years. He also conferred the honorary degree on students. Vice President stressed on the importance of e-health and facilities related to it.
With increasing internet and smartphone penetration in our rural areas, e-health is the way forward for the optimum use of our human resources in healthcare. The idea of digitized health records will save the hassle of paperwork for people and bring about a smooth and seamless experience during hospital visits. The Prime Minister is expected to launch the Pradhana Mantri Digital Health Mission in a few days. A unique digital health ID will be provided to the people, which will contain all the health records of the person. While ensuring the safety and the privacy of health data, this digitization will greatly help to monitor diseases and enable quicker decision making.
The Vice President also urged people to work on the ground level to further strengthen the vaccination drive. He also lauded the efforts of healthcare workers who relentlessly worked.
The COVID-19 crisis is far from over. India is implementing the world's largest vaccination drive, and the aim is to complete the vaccination for all eligible people at the earliest. Civic groups must join hands with their local governments and encourage people to get vaccinated. This vaccination program should become a people's movement. इसको एक जनांदोलन रूप देने के लिए सब लोग प्रयास करना चाहिए.
Let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from around the world. The global COVID-19 case tally has crossed the 23 crore mark. Over 23 crore, 18 lakh cases of COVID-19 have recovered globally. Over 47 lakh 50,000 lives have been lost to the virus globally. With this, the US remains the worst hit nation. So far, over 4 crore 36 lakh cases have been reported from across the country. The death toll in the US has surpassed 7 lakh, with more than 7 lakh 5,000 people having lost their lives to the virus. Australia's Victoria state notched up a new daily record of 847 locally acquired cases of COVID-19. Health officials warned the public to stay home ahead of a major sporting event and expect case numbers to be rising until mid-November. Vaccination rates have crossed the 46% mark. Meanwhile, Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton has warned fans to stay home ahead of the football grand final. Meanwhile, anti-vaccination protests have hit Melbourne and they've spilled into the suburbs, with over 30 people being arrested. Authorities are also concerned that the protests may fuel a worsening outbreak of the virus. Cuba began to gradually reactivate its battered economy amid the coronavirus pandemic following the announcement of the reopening of restaurants and cafes, an initial step to allow more tourist flights in November. Since Friday, the Cuban government allowed a group of establishments in 8 provinces, including Havana, to restart their services as part of a relaxation of their health protocols. Cuba aims to reduce contagions with a campaign to immunize more than 90% of the population with locally produced vaccines by November. But the coronavirus remains a significant problem for the Caribbean country as it has strained its healthcare system. In Havana, 86.5% of the 2.2 million population has been vaccinated. More than 8.5 million people on the island have been immunized with at least one of Cuba's 3 doses of vaccines. According to official figures, Cuba has averaged 7,800 cases per day and 75 deaths in September, significantly decreasing from August. However, it remains one of the highest rates in the world in terms of cases per 1 lakh population. With many countries around the world putting emphasis on the importance of booster vaccines against COVID-19, in Britain, Margaret Keenan, the 91-year-old grandmother who became the first person in the world to receive the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine outside of a trial, received her booster vaccine at University Hospital Coventry in England yesterday. Keenan got the jab alongside nurse May Parsons, who administered Keenan's first vaccine in December 2020. Britain reported about 35,623 new COVID cases and 180 more deaths within 28 days of a positive test. The figures compared to 36,710 cases and 182 deaths recorded on Thursday. The United States House of Representatives on Friday approved a proposed law that guarantees women's right to abortion throughout the United States. The bill, which would override new laws in Texas and other Republican-led states restricting abortions, passed the House by a vote of 218 to 211, but faces opposition from Republicans in the U.S. Senate. And with that, we come to the close of this edition of News Connect. Stay tuned to DD India.